I gotta say it, I like Dark Phoenix. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I am Chase, and I liked Dark Phoenix. I saw it, this review is coming a little late, but I saw it over the weekend, and I liked it. I thought it was really good. Okay, maybe not really good, but I liked it. Okay, it was a good movie. One of the big things, I gotta go back. I made a video about a week ago or so in regards to the whole ex-woman thing, the Jennifer Lawrence line. I gotta walk that back. Although, yes, that was in there. The whole movie itself, though, is definitely not an agenda-driven movie trying to push some ideology, or being preached at, or SJW-ness. None of that. It's pretty straightforward in what it's trying to accomplish. Just here's a movie. Whether or not that was done well, that's up for the debate. Apparently, a lot of people don't like it, thought it was terrible, which I can understand. I get why, but let's get into some of the reasons maybe I liked it, or the reasons I did like it. So first off, I really liked the story. I love how each of these movies is taking place during a certain decade. So it's the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and now the 90s for Dark Phoenix, which I just think is really cool. The only thing that's kind of weird is, like, Jennifer Lawrence and the Beast are pretty much look the same age as they did in the 60s as they do in the 90s. So, I mean, whatever. They're mutants. Come on, man. Anyway, I felt like the movie kept a pretty good pace throughout the whole thing. Like, there were some moments where I was a little bored, or I was like, yeah, let's get through this. But overall, I thought it kept a good pace. And I really, honestly, I like, what's her name? Sophie Turner. I really like her as Jean Grey. I really do. I think she just plays a really great Jean Grey, and she really looks like her. In my opinion, obviously, like I remember seeing her in Apocalypse, and I really liked her. And then I was really happy that they announced Dark Phoenix, all that kind of stuff. So I was really excited. So I really thought she did a great job playing Jean Grey. Now, I do think that the plot building up the Phoenix and her was a little weak, because we never really got the full experience of the power of the Phoenix. Like, the first time it comes or it manifests itself is they're at a party in the woods, and she sees a fire and she gets triggered, and it's kind of like a sonic boom through the forest and everybody gets knocked down. It's like, okay, whatever, it's the beginning. It's gonna get worse. And so one of the big caveats, or one of the big storylines of this movie, is that Professor X, when he got Jean Grey as a child, she actually was involved in a car crash in which she caused her mother to fall asleep, and they went head on into a semi-truck, and it killed the mother. Apparently the dad survived. She didn't know that. Professor X just basically said her dad died. And we find out later it's just because the dad was finished with her. He did not want anything to do with her. So anyway, the Phoenix being inside Jean Grey begins to knock down these walls that Professor X had put up to shield her from those memories. So the trauma is leaking in, and the Phoenix is inside her, which, honestly, that is a great premise to showcase the power of the Phoenix. Like, you got unvisited trauma mingled with the most powerful being in the universe, boom, inside of somebody who is a very powerful mutant themselves. And so Jean Grey goes to find her father, and she does. And he, even at that point, he doesn't want anything to do with her. He's not overly mean. He's just like, I really don't want you to be here. Like, can you please leave? I wanted you out of my life. And it's such a perfect opportunity. And the only thing that really happens is like parts of the house like come off. Some windows burst. Some side paneling gets ripped off. I'm like, this is the Phoenix. Nuke the neighborhood. This is the last movie. There isn't going to be any movies after this. Just go all out. Nuke the neighborhood with the power of the Phoenix. Just nuke it. Level it. Anyway, the X-Men come, and we finally get to see a cool scene with Quicksilver. I mean, you do see it in the first part of the movie where Jean Grey actually becomes the Phoenix. But he shows up again. I always like those scenes with Quicksilver. I like him. He's a cool dude. Unfortunately, he's not really in it that much. After this scene, he's gone. You don't see him again. He doesn't play a role in the actual overall story. Anyway, they're trying to calm Jean down. She is just not having it. And then Mystique... Come on, Mystique. You're dealing with the most powerful being in existence at this moment. And she just walks up. Like, I would be hiding. I would be like, Professor X, I think we should get on the ship and go back. Let's get into the, I want to say Technodrome. That's not what it's called. His viewing room. And let's track her from there. And I think we should probably be better prepared. But no, Mystique just walks up. And basically what happens, Phoenix just kills her. She doesn't mean to kill her. She throws her. And Mystique gets impaled on some wood. And she's gone. And that is what starts the catalyst for Beast to become bloodthirsty to kill Phoenix. And it's like the thing is I know, yes, in First Class, X-Men First Class, like, Beast and her did have kind of a little thing, but that's like it. I don't, like, that's not what happens in Days of Future Past. It's not what happens in X-Men Apocalypse. And now all of a sudden we need to be emotionally involved with that relationship. I didn't care. Honestly, I was like, what, Beast, why are you getting all up in your feels about this? Like, at most, she was a coworker, like, that you kind of had a crush on 30 years ago. So I didn't really understand that. I thought it was pretty weak. And so he goes on the warpath. Jean, she goes back to find Magneto, and Magneto's secluded on some island with other mutants, and I don't really understand why he's even there. It's not explained. I mean, it is explained, but it's just like Professor X and the X-Men, they did their thing, and the government granted Magneto and other mutants this land. It was pretty weak. I was just like, why is Magneto here? It just didn't make any sense to me. So Jean's wanting help from Magneto on how to stop killing, and Magneto, he doesn't care. And there's a little scene between them fighting with their powers, and I'm like, again, this is the most powerful being in the universe. She should have just destroyed. Like, they're fighting over this helicopter. Magneto's trying to get it off the island, and Jean's trying to destroy it. And it's just like, Magneto would not compare to this, okay? It should have just been scorched earth at that point. It didn't happen. Long story short, Magneto finds out that Jean killed Mystique. And he gets really upset about it. And again, I'm just like, why? Why is... Like, again, it goes back to X-Men First Class when Magneto had any kind of feelings towards her. And then he went off and, you know, made a life. He had a family that was killed in front of him. It's like, I don't know. I kind of get Magneto a little bit more than I do Beast. Anyway, him and Beast and a lot of his little mutant gang all team up to go and kill the Phoenix. So, meanwhile, a weak enemy appears. And that's led by Jessica Chastain, and it's like Invasion of the Body Snatchers. And these aliens look like the Area 51 alien that you see like in those old movies, like the big eyes, big head, small body, and they kill the person and then take over as host. So it's just a really weak kind of enemy, and I just didn't get scared by them at all, and then or have any kind of, I just didn't get scared by them at all. Okay, they were weak. So I think their name is the Dabari. I think the Dabari, and then her name is Vuk. V-U-K. Vuk. So anyway, long story short, this group of aliens actually saw the ship that the X-Men were on at the beginning of the movie when Genius gets taken over by the Phoenix, which they thought was a solar flare. Apparently, the X-Men had no idea they were around there. You know, high-tech plane, no idea. There was a big old ship about a mile back looking at everything. They want to get the Phoenix power because the Phoenix apparently their civilization was destroyed and they want to rebuild it. Who knows? It's a very drab story. They don't explain it really at all. So that's supposed to make you understand, help you understand their plan. Just getting to the end, because I really don't want to get through that. Just getting to the end. There's the Phoenix, Jean Grey, and then there's Jessica Chastain, Vuk. Vuk is wanting the Phoenix power, and Jean Grey's like, have it. Take it. You can have it all. And there's this big train sequence, and it crashes, and so now they're all around and gathered up. Jean Grey starts passing out the Phoenix. And apparently the force is so great that it's starting to affect the other mutants around, like Xavier and Magneto and Cyclops in his hand is starting to get a little funky, and he's starting to cry. Again, I think Cyclops was a weak character. They really could have done better with him. It's sad. He was like my favorite character as a kid. Then I moved on to Wolverine. But speaking of Wolverine, you really kind of get a sense of how Hugh Jackman really carried the X-Men franchise. Like, without him, man, it's weird. It's weird not having him there. Even though I liked X-Men Apocalypse, I actually liked the X-Men Apocalypse a lot, but it's just weird not having him there. Anyway, Jean sees Cyclops' hand like getting a little funky, and she's like, oh no. And so they zoom up into space. Jean Grey takes Vuk, and they zoom up into space, and the transfer happens. I'm guessing Vuk can't handle the transfer because a big explosion occurs, and then she turns into the Phoenix. And that's it. And it's done. That's it. It was a weak ending. I feel like this movie was rushed, to be quite honest. And from what I've read, there was just a lot of debacle surrounding this movie. Like, because I guess Disney and it was around the Disney merger, and Disney executives were actually on set, actively involved, and I think it just really got into a mess, and it should have been 2 movies It really should have. To really tell the story. I mean, this is the biggest story arc in all of X-Men, and it just really got squandered. And it's kind of, and like X-Men Last Stand, that too was squandered. Like, will this story ever be touched again? It's like 2 movies have been made about the Dark Phoenix and they sucked. Well, across the board, that's what everybody says. Like I said, I know I've kind of hammered on this movie, but to be honest, I did enjoy it. I thought it was good. And I really saw how it could have had a lot of more potential to be better. And I honestly, I think reins were pulled, and it couldn't be the film that I think Simon, the director, was really trying to get to. So overall, though, I think what it is, I think you would have a good time watching it. It's honestly not as bad as people are saying it is. I don't think. I think it's pretty good. And I think the girl who played Jean Grey, like I said, I really like her as Jean Grey. I think she did a fantastic job. And if they were to come back, I would be totally fine with her coming back as Jean Grey. I really liked Famke Janssen as Jean Grey as well, but I don't think she would be returning to that role unless they were doing like an old woman Jean Grey movie or something like that. That would be cool. Be like Logan, the Jean Grey, Famke Janssen. That'd be pretty cool. I know probably a lot of you disagree with this video, so please voice it down in the comments. If you're like, Chase, you're deluded, you're drunk, this movie sucked. Everybody says it sucked. It's losing hundreds of millions of dollars. How could you even get into the camp that it was good? Well, voice it down in the comments. I'd love to read it. And if you like it, please give a thumbs up on this video. It really helps. And obviously, if you haven't already, subscribe, because there's more of this to come. Thank you, and peace.